Okay, so I'm going to be making a presentation on Super Toys Last All Summer Long. A short introduction. The short story is made by Brian Aldiss in 1969. He was an English writer and anthology editor, best known for his science fiction novels and short stories, which we, of course, have here. Um, the theme is unreal versus real and loneliness, because those are some components that we get through the story at sometimes. Um, the setting is in a futuristic or otherworldly, maybe parallel universe where there are some or a lot of new things that we don't have here, such as holograms, maybe very human-like robots, and the government controls the amount of babies or children that you can have too, which we also don't have here. A little thing here is also, or quote, almost by reflex, she reached out and changed the wavelength of the window. The garden faded. In its place, the city center rose by her left hand, full of crowding people below boats and buildings, which, of course, just shows that there are some new things that we don't have here. She is changing the things that we see outside of her window, almost like a TV show, kind of. Okay, so characterization of Monica and David. Monica Swinton is 29 years old, and she is portrayed as very beautiful, at least to other people. Where, for example, Henry Swinton says, or her husband says that she just stays at home thinking beautiful thoughts. But in reality, Monica is very lonely, which we hear in this quote, where it says, "She remained alone. An overcrowded world is the ideal place in which to be lonely," which is something that she kind of thinks. Yeah. But then there is David, their son, or kind of son, who is 5 years old, and he is portrayed to have dark hair and have a little friend who is named Teddy, which is a robot. But Monica and David's relationship is very strained, which we kind of hear already in like the start of the book or novel, sorry, where she says something about trying to love him, even though, yeah, she says something about trying to love him. And also, David is also really trying to tell his mom that he loves her, but he can't somehow he just can't get that out to her. Yeah, and also Monica's husband, Henry Swinton, is managing director of Synthink, and he makes robots, or very much, yeah, that's what he makes. So the structure of the novel is the beginning, which starts off in media res, where it's just starting on hard, with an introduction of Monica and David, and we already there see the tension between Monica and David, which I told you before, she tried to love him. And then there's the middle, where we get to know the world better and what is kind of happening, and getting to know the characters and what is going on, kind of, if you just know about that. And then that leads us to the ending, which is very open. We don't really know what happens. We just know that Monica and Henry are finally authorized to have a baby, which they are very happy about. And I feel like, but they also say, what are we going to do about David? And then they say that they're probably going to have to send him back to get fixed. I don't really remember the correct words, but something like that. And then it also just ends with Teddy. I suppose mommy and daddy are real, aren't they? Teddy said, "You ask such silly questions, David. Nobody knows what real really means. Let's go indoors." So Teddy is a robot, but he also knows that something isn't quite right because nobody really knows what real is, which then kind of brings the ethical question like, what what do we do with that? If nobody knows what real is, then how do we change that maybe? Um, which then ends us with the conclusion, which is it's of course a sci-fi, um, and it's very hard to differentiate between real and not real in this story because we thought that David was a real boy all up till we kind of got these clues here and there where we find out that he might not be as real as we thought. Um, Again, with the quote that we had from last time, and the ethical question, if we don't know what real is, then you will probably feel very lonely in the world, which is what Monica does. She questions her relationship with David, which is, of course, understandable because David is a robot and she's really trying to be motherly toward him, but it doesn't really feel real to her. And when she finally gets authorized to have a baby, she's over the moon happy because that's all she has ever wanted. Um, yeah. Bye.